on, so it's a real shame.
But hopefully people started to see the style of footy we're working on and we want to play.
My take on it is if you're good enough, you get there. If you're not, you're not.
Indeed, Leon, if you're good enough, you get there, and if you're not, you're not. We're going to take a look at all those sides, 6th through to 12. And the question, Gary, is why? Why will they get there and why may they not get there?
All right, well, that's right. I've got Collingwood, so I'll start and roll through them. We know why they can get there is that they've got a defence that has held up so well throughout the course of this year, even when they weren't scoring at the other end. The back half held up, and that was because Moore's had an outstanding year. Maynard's probably the two of them in All-Australian contention. Roughhead on the weekend was great, and then you've got Crisp, who's had a great year. They've added Quaynor, I reckon, is really important, and Noble, imagine, have added a little bit of support. So,
and how to come back, possibly.
Sneaky.
And how's the sneaky to come back? Yeah, so their back half is solid, and you'd be happy to take that back half into the finals. And how back into that team, then you'd be over the moon. So they've got most of the contingencies covered in their back half.
How do you win a flag, though, Gary? Let's be honest.
You've got to kick them, Brownie.
You've got to kick them. We've been saying this all year.
That's right. So that's why can't they? Is there issues at the other end of the ground. I mean, they've been so solid. They've scored 70-plus only once since round 3, and they've been exposed, and that happens. We know why. So the big guns are out of that side. But there was a little bit of system that came back, I thought, on the weekend.
It looked in that first half like they opened themselves up maybe a little bit defensively to try and start to get that score on the board. They found the balance much more in the second half.
Well, we're going to Stevenson, Mycheck,
Cox
and Cox into that side. Look, they looked at a more potent side.
They're sticking with Cox now, you think?
They've got to stick with him.
Yep.
They can't win without him up there. He's a reference point. He guides the ball to the ground. He may not kick 6, but he might create 3 or 4.
Reference point spot on.
They've got some big games, Lions by Gold Coast and Port Adelaide.
So why can they? I think they will. Yeah, we haven't even spoken about that midfield group led by Taylor Adams.
You were all concerned about that. They haven't beaten anyone. The only time they really come up against contender, they got blown away by Melbourne the last 6 weeks.
Flat against Melbourne.
At their lowest ebb, I reckon. They were just about at their last ebb. They regathered themselves a bit, and I'm off them for the Premiership, which I was off, but I think they're going to beat it.
Yeah, they do need a big win, though. Adelaide win, Melbourne loss, North Melbourne, Carlton beaten not too much. Lions and Gold Coast Port, a big last month. Let's go to you, Brownie, with the Saints in 7th position. Yeah,
let's have a look at their strength. Their speed's been a real strength this year.
Yeah.
It's been terrific.
Still a strength?
Well, they need it to be a strength. So, Butler's been a revelation. Probably dropped off a bit the last month or so, Jared. Hill's coming on, so he adds good speed. But they have dropped away a little bit, which has been a concern. If you actually look at you look at some of this speed. So when Sinclair going into the midfielders give him a bit of toe around there when he does go in there. But you just need to see a bit more consistently, and they're scoring. We talk about their speeds there, but also I look at memory and I think he's kicked 3 goals in 5 games. And Marshall's kicked 2 goals in 5 games. Obviously, King's had his struggles. He can't take the mark as well.
Is there a bit of Melbourne about this group? They're going in so quickly, they then get exposed on the way back out.
There is a little bit of that because that is a weakness. So the ball does transition reasonably quickly back the other way. If you actually look at their...
Sorry, on that strength is not a real big strength. That doesn't fill me as a St Kilda porter with a great...
No, they have, and they've had problems the last month or so. And the other problem for them is they have been beaten by the good sides around the midfield. From scores from stoppages has been a real concern for them. Jack Steele's been really good for them. He started to move up into the A-grader category. Obviously, we need to see that for the whole year. Ross tried to play on Petrarca when he was in the middle.
So if defence is their weakness, do they slow the ball down a little bit, or they just got to make sure they hold it in?
I think they probably do just take it off a little bit. But you'd love to see their key forwards start to take some more marks. I think at the moment we're seeing drop marks, Jetta, the ball's hitting the ground.
Do you give Max a rest?
Look, I like Max. I like where he's heading. He's certainly getting his hands to the football enough, isn't he?
Yeah,
really?
He is. Yeah, probably another 5 or 6 on the weekend where he gets to it and can't complete the mark. I think when sides have gone slow against them, that's when they've really struggled to find them.
Do they make it your old mob St Kilda Brewery?
I think they can win 2 of those games. Yeah, the Hawthorn game and the GWS game. They probably only need 1. Because they've banked enough wins.
Whilst you're running hot, the Demons, impressive against the Saints, and yet the expected scores had them losing by 3 goals. So they got the 4 points, and that's all you can ask. Would have been a good plane trip home, that particular one, for Alan Richardson in particular. But their strengths?
Small degrees of separation everywhere you looked in that game of footy. The strengths for Melbourne, clearly the midfield. We know they're a great contested ball and ground ball team. They've got 3 of the top 10 players in the competition through that area. So Max Gawn, we know, who's come back into the lineup, Clayton Oliver, who has made the adjustment over the past probably month when we highlighted some of their deficiencies going too far. So he was one of the main culprits, but he's back playing like an elite player. And the other one is Christian Petrarca as well, Jared.
Gone, Oliver, Brayshaw, Petrarca, Viney, Langdon, and Harms out of the side could come back in. Now, Petrarca is rated the #1 player in the competition. My question to you, learned gentlemen, is should they rob one of their A-graders from their great strength and stick him in their weakness where they haven't got an A-grader, and that's in the forward line? And I just quote you his numbers. He's 70-30 at the present time. Dusty is 60-40. Can I just pinch 10% more of him and stick him in the forward line, Gary? Because his 4 goals on the weekend was the difference.
Yeah, you can. And the comparisons with Dusty early on were a bit onerous, you know, and they still are because Dusty's done it over a period of time. But he now is presenting Dustin Martin problems for opposition clubs.
Did he go forward because Ross was doing a dangerous job on him, like they've done on Martin in the past, and they just throw him forward?
Not to that degree. It would have been more with what Jared's point is that the forward line outside of Wiedemann wasn't really cooking.
But if you have a look at it, I think you've got to share your gold nuggets around.
I think you're right.
And a little bit more in a position where, or an area where they haven't got a gold nugget. What's their weakness?
Yeah, so really encouraging signs that they're learning, Melbourne, but are they completely trustworthy yet? So they've only beaten one team inside the top 6 this year, and you just wonder, under pressure, Gary, will they revert to some of the bad habits that we've seen in terms of the red mist kicking in and the haphazard footy that gets them into trouble defensively and then defensively coming back the other way?
I think you've nailed Melbourne. I think you summed it up. I mean, that's what we want to see there. And I love what Simon Goodwin did in his presser in the lead up to this game. He just put the pressure on. He said, these are teams we've got to beat. I thought he coached really well. He took the heat out of the game when he needed to. They maintained possession, so they're learning. And now they need to beat top sides.
Giants are in 9th position, Gary, on the charge.
Why can they make it? Well, that's just the quality of playing that they got. I mean, you go through the playing list and it suggests they're good enough to make it. And the other reason why they can is because they can. And they've been doing it. They're the only team to win a final each year since 2016. That's a fantastic endorsement. No other club's been able to do that. Win a final since 2016. So for all Leon Cameron's pressure that comes his way, that's a stat that he can throw.
They showed some good signs on the weekend. Did that game, and they looked ominous because Fremantle's been very difficult to score against there on the weekend. They blew Fremantle off the park.
What was different about them? Can you see a small wave building? It's not a tsunami just at the moment. Can you see a lift in the swell?
They started to move better.
Yeah, they moved about. Always, you know, same as Richmond. You look at that first few minutes, their midfield, and they had their hunt right. You know, the hunt was fantastic, and they pressured up the opposition really well. They won the contested football. They got their balance right. 6 goals from forward half, 6 goals from back half, 6 goals from stopping.
They gave their forwards a chance, Gaz. So that was so pedestrian in the previous few weeks.
Which brings us to why they can't. And that is what we've been talking about a lot on this program, and is evident for everyone, is their ball movement from the back particularly. They were slow, they were stagnant, whether they've been trying to be cautious and not get hurt on turnover, whatever the case was. We talked about Jeremy Cameron last week and saying that he didn't look particularly interested. He may just have had enough, and he freed up. Riccardi was good. The next Wayne Carey. That might just come back to haunt you at some stage.
Yeah, well, just clarify what I said. I said he looks like Wayne Carey the way he's plucking him at the moment. Which, you know, have we seen a young player in his first two, a young key position player play like that, really?
No, it is fantastic.
It's hard to think of.
Cut his teeth as a midfielder, Brownie, so he's got the best of both worlds.
No, he was good. I liked him. The Giants have had teething problems, Jared, because they've had the forward. They're trying to play this forward half game. You want them to play the tsunami. They've got to try and find that happy balance, don't they? The happy medium.
The side that wins the flag is going to get the balance right. Everybody's got strengths and they've got weaknesses, but getting the balance between your strengths and covering your weaknesses is the challenge.
That's why all of these teams are where they are in that precarious position, because they haven't been able to strike that balance consistently. So the Western Bulldogs, no such issues moving the footy from there for them like we saw with the Giants. They've got a really unique style, aggressive with the ball. We know they like to flick it around. They test you by foot. They test you with their hands. The Dogs handball game, Browning, it was on in the first quarter. And if you're a little bit
taking
off,
marks,
if you're a little bit off defensively and you give the Bulldogs time and space, well, then they absolutely cut you to ribbons. And we saw them do it against the team Geelong that have been the best defensive team in the competition this year. They reassess, they shut them down after quarter time, but they are devastating, the Bulldogs, when they move it.
It was as good a quarter of footy as we've seen this year.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
And taking into account the opposition, and then, and this I guess would be to your next point, why can't they make it, is that Geelong went to work on them.
Yeah, they did. So outside of ball use, they don't really have a part of their game that is stacking up all that much at the moment. So if you're on defensively, if you bring the heat, if you bring the pressure,
deny them the ball.
Yep, deny them the footy, bring your team defence, bring your system, as Geelong did after quarter time. They chipped away, and they shut them down.
Beaten one side in the top 8 this week, this year, so that needs to change. Finally, Brownie, let's take a look at the Bombers, who pulled something out of the hat at half-time.
I've got X Factor. X Factor from it, and the two main X Factors are Joe Dano, obviously returned, he was sensational on the weekend, and Jake Stringer, who's obviously second game back. Jetta, so big game for them tomorrow night. They can put a score on you very quickly. They were horrible at half-time, and I listened to Gary on radio this morning. We don't take any of our comments back from half-time because they were deplorable. And all Essendon supporters, if they got their heads screwed on, would absolutely agree with us. Likewise, they were magnificent in the second half, so we'll praise them. But they can do this to you. They can score from the back half, which makes them really, really dangerous. And they are capable in the clearances around the stoppages. They're very, very capable. So these are some of the things. I just really think their X Factor is a big thing. When you're 36 points down at half-time and you come back, you can do that against teams.
Wasn't it great to see them go forward instead of going in the circuitous motion to go forward?
Yeah, we did the game, really, didn't we? Yep. And they were handball happy even in the second half, but they started to change angles with the handball.
That's right. And when they had a player actually free of pressure, well, then he penetrated with his legs and he actually gave those fours that you spoke about a chance.
Hooker, Stringer and Danaher deep. There's your reason. They were getting to the halfway mark and going bang, and it made a world of difference.
So contested footy, though, remains their weakness.
It does, Jenna. So if you actually, we'll use the latest example, body of work on Thursday against Hawthorn. They were just tight. They were winning the clearances. Yeah. But when it left that area, they were horrible. So their post-clearance contested ball or ground ball, which you love, Jaron, and we all love, they were horrible and they turned that around in the second half. So they need to get better at that. To me, the Bombers are an inconsistent side when it comes to their hunt around the midfield. We often talk about that hunt. Contested football and their ability to pressure the opposition. Their ability to pressure the opposition in the first half was disgraceful. Nothing short of disgraceful. Take nothing away from Hawthorn. They were witches' hat, and they clearly fixed that up after half-time. But that's their problem.
Well, they're going to be challenged in all areas tomorrow night. It's unbelievable. Round 15 starts tomorrow night. We've got a double